Okay, where we left off was we had a reed that we had done some initial scraping on, and basically it had been reamed out. We had put a shoulder on it. We had cut it a little bit long, probably, I cut it to 2¼ inches, and that's probably 30 thousandths of an inch too long for my standard measurements. I've done some initial scraping so that it has met my standard center line profile on both sides. And now I'm ready to, I've crowed it. And basically it crows fairly nicely. And I said that I was going to put it on my bassoon and see what happens. So here it goes. Okay. Okay, so it's experiencing just, it plays pretty much the range. A little bit buzzy, a little bit soft. My E experienced intonation problems. So what do I need to do in order to get things going better? Well, first of all, I noticed that it didn't go on the vocal as far as it should. And as I mentioned before, what happens when you ream this, the first time when it's dry, is as soon as you get it wet, the fibers swell up again from where they were when you formed the reed. And so you can see that this collar was on here to tell me how deep I should be reaming. And I initially reamed it and it went all the way down to the collar, but now that it's wet, it has swelled up some. And so I need to do a little bit of additional reaming in order to make sure that we're down to the place that things can happen. And you can see I've taken off a fair amount of cane on that. Okay, the next thing that I want to do on this is to cut it to the proper length. Okay, so again, my length is 2 7/32. Basically, I'm trying to get between 2.210 and 2.220 inches. Okay, and so I'm using my dial caliper and I'm measuring it, and I'm just, well, I'm at 2¼ okay, 2.250. Okay, so I'm about 30 thousandths too long. Okay, and so I want to take off 30 thousandths of this reed, and so I'm going to take my reed clipper. I could do this with a pair of nippers, but who knows how much 30 thousandths is with a pair of nippers. You can try that, and I did that for many years, and it kind of worked. But anyway, with this kind of reed clipper, tip clipper, I can measure the total length of the reed, and I always work with the total length of the reed. It has markings on it here for length of the blade in millimeters, but I've never found that particularly useful. I always have worked with the total length of the reed. Okay, so what I've done now is I put it in here so that when my blade is down and I've pushed the reed until it is centered and it is touching the cutting blade. Okay, and basically I'll keep that down and I'll measure the length here using my dial calipers, and I've got a distance here. Okay, I've got a length that I've got here, and this is about 30 thousandths too long. Okay, so I need to reduce this measurement by about 30 thousandths. Okay, so I'm just going to lift up the blade, and I'm going to very carefully, slowly wind this in. It was at 42, I'm going to wind it down to 12. That's 30 thousandths. I'm going to make sure that I've got my reed centered, and take this off and clip off the reed and see how well I did. Okay, so here I am, breathing down, and I'm right at what I wanted to be, 2.220 inches. So this is the top of my tolerance. I've still got about 10 thousandths here. That's about the thickness of about 3 sheets of paper, 2 or 3 sheets of paper. And I've got 10 thousandths and to work with in case things are not too good after that. Okay, again, I want to make sure that I clip off a very small amount on the corners so that I don't catch them in anything. I do my corners very small. Basically, and that didn't get anything. Okay, so I've cut off the corners, and I'll check that a couple more times to see what's going on, but basically they're okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat what I just did before, is I'm going to work with my center line measurements, and I'm going to get it down, just work to get the center line measurements so that they make my specifications again. And that'll be on the video, so you'll be able to see what those are. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do some scraping. Okay, and I'm going to come back when I've got that scraping done, and we'll see where we're going from there. Okay, I'm back. I've done my scraping to the centerline measurements. I'm within about 1,000th of the correct things. One side is about 1,000 thin, and the other side is about 1,000 thick. But otherwise, things are pretty good. I'm going to take a look at the reed here again. I've just done the center line measurements. I haven't worried about anything else yet. I'll crow it again. And it's crowing okay. Not a lot of high harmonics in the crow, but the crow is there. I'll put it on my bassoon again and play it. I need to step a little bit away from the microphone here. Pretty good. You know, the bad E is gone, and things are okay. I've still got some tolerance here in what I have to do when I'm working. So basically now what I want to do is I want to increase the number of measurements that I take. I just work with the center line. And so in the past ones, I just worked with the center line, and so I started with a 1/16 of an inch and then went every 1/8 of an inch. Well, I'm going to do that as well here, is I'm going to do that, but instead of just doing the center line, I'm going to also make measurements about halfway from the center to the edge of the reed on each one of those measurements, on right on that, and then for the 3 that are near the tip at 1/16, 3/16, and 5/16, I'm going to also measure at the edge. So I will make a total, I think I was making like 9 or 10 measurements before, and now I'm going to be making 30 measurements on each side of the reed. Okay, I'll put that onto, I will record those measurements. I've made a piece of paper here with the measurements on it, and basically I've written down what my center line measurements are to be at 1/16, 3/16, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17 sixteenths. Okay, so I have those measurements, and now I'm going to work this. I'm going to indicate which wire is up and which is down, meaning is the reed. Again, I make my reeds so that when you do this, you can tell which is the upside and which is the downside. And I like my reeds to smile at me, so I've kind of figured out which way that is. Okay, and I will look at this, and I will also check the opening. This opening is not bad. It's not super symmetric, but it's not bad. And I will continue that. So again, a little break here while I make that first set of measurements and tell you what I'm going to do with those. Okay, back again. So I scraped the reed. Well, I didn't scrape the reed. I measured what was going on with the reed, and I created a table of what's going on for the 30 measurement spots that I pick on my reed. Again, here are the center line measurements that I'm shooting for, and what I want is on the variations to the side is I want the sides to be somewhat smaller, a couple thousandths smaller than in the center line, and for things to go smoothly. And so what I've done is I've found that in some places, those that I've circled, well, the center line measurements are all pretty good. They're within 1,000th of where they ought to be. And so I'm happy with that. 1,000th of an inch is in wood is really almost nothing. But anyway, so what I've done here is I have circled the numbers that are where the measurement off to the side is the same as the center, and I want it less than that. So I've got, in this case, 4 things all on the left side where it's smaller, and then I box the one where the measurement is actually larger on the side than it is in the center. Okay, and I did this on the other side too, and I see that in this case I only have 3 places where the off-center measurement is the same as the center. Well, 4 when I go 3 on the left, 1 on the right, and a boxed one on where the measurement is larger than the center line measurement. Now you notice that it's sort of a remarkable thing that they're in the same place on the 2 blades, and so that means that in my scraping, they're basically in the same locations. In my scraping, I have some oddities where apparently I don't take as much off the left side of the reed as I do on the right side. But this tells me where I need to do things. And so basically I'm going to find those places on the reed. So I get my reed. I make sure that I match the wire up with the wire up ones. And I do my measurements. Yes, there we go. And so at the third measurement, which is 1, 3, 5 sixteenths in, I mark that those locations 1, 2, 3, 4, and skip 1 and out here. So those are places where I'm going to have to take off this side, and on the other side of the reed where the wire is down, I've got 1 here, 4th one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm skipping, oops, I'm only supposed to skip 2. And then up here. And over here. Okay, so those are the locations where I need to be scraping some more cane off the reed. Okay, so I'm just going to mark those in with pencil so that I can see where I'm scraping and take it off. Okay, so back here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, anyway, in those locations. Okay, so I need to take stuff off here, and particularly at 1/16, 3, 5, 7, 9/16. So that's where it really needs stuff taken off. Okay, so I'm going to just take that and I'll put my plaque in, and I'll use my reed knife. And here I just use the point of the reed knife and work to take those spots out. So I'm going to work hard on this spot that's too thick, and then just gently scrape along these other spots. I've got a spot where it's catching here, and that's not good. Okay, so I've done that. And then the same thing over here. I'll just work on this little spot over here. Take some off that up there. Some out of here. And some out of the back here. Okay, now I'm going to do just a general filing of the reed as well, just to smooth out the weird things that I might have done by just working on those bases. So I'm just using a triangular file, a triangular file, and so I will just go along the reed with the file in this angle, and then with it in the other angle. Concentrating most on the sides because that's where I did most of my work. Do it on the other side. Okay, this is getting rid of that hooky spot that was there. Okay, and then I do a weird thing here, is I actually take the reed and I turn it around and I go back and do it the same way with one angle and then the other angle in the other direction. Tends to, having the file at an angle and going at two different angles tends to even things out for me. Okay, so done something, get the reed a little wet, see if things are any better when I put it on the horn. Take it out, crow it. Still a little low on the crow. Yeah, still can't get an F. Well, pretty good. You know, there are a couple other things that I will do when I'm looking at things. One is I will check and I will look at the reed opening. Okay, you're looking at the reed opening here, and it's fairly symmetric. It's not quite symmetric, and so I will work on trying to get that so that it's a little more symmetric. It's also closed a little bit more than I like, and so I don't work very much with the wires, but in this case, and in many of my reeds, I have to open them up just a little bit, and I'll do that by squeezing the first wire side to side. I'm not going to do that now, but basically that's what I would do. Other than that, this reed is kind of plain. It needs to spend a lot of time just being broken in. Okay, and again, when I'm working on things and after I've got the reed playing at this level, The guides that I use are the Selmer Teacher's Guide to the Bassoon. There's a nice section on there that was written by Homer Pence in the 60s. That's available online. There are two places it's available online. I'll try to get both of them on there. There's one, and it's also was published in the Selmer Bandwagon magazine for high school teachers at that time in the early 60s. The other one is Christian Davidson's read adjusting web page that is a good one. Okay, so I hope this has been somewhat helpful. Happy read making.